You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly.
All set here, Deb.
Okay, Rich, we're ready for you.
You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by. The meeting will begin shortly. You have successfully joined the webcast. Please stand by.
Steve, can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so Chairman Joy, are you ready to begin?
Go. Oh my God. Good morning, everyone. I would like to call to order the meeting of the directors of the Erie Canal Harbor Development Corporation for Monday, July 10. I'd like to note for the record that this meeting is being webcast. We welcome public comment on today's agenda items. I will note that for the record that the public was given the opportunity to comment on agenda items by submitting their written comments by 9 a.m. today. I will state that we have not had any comments to date. I will also note that we do not have any members of the public meeting here. Is that correct? Directors have received relevant and written materials in advance of today's meeting and are free to ask questions at any time. Before we begin with the substantive portion of the meeting, I would ask the directors whether anyone has any potential conflict of interest with respect to any of the agenda items. Hearing none, we can now begin the meeting. I would like to call upon Steve Brunelli to present the first item on today's agenda, authorization for the corporation to enter into a contract for the site construction services in connection with Wilkinson Point Improvements Project at the Outer Harbor. Steve, when you're ready.
Thanks, Robert. Before we jump into this specific item, I just want to kind of set the overview for Wilkinson Point because it will be 4 individual items that we're going to look at. So I do want to, so everybody remembers, it was just at the end of 2020, early 2021, when the directors adopted and affirmed the general project plan for the entire Buffalo Outer Harbor. And in that, we authorized 5 phase 1 projects: Terminal B, Lakeside Complex, Bell Slip, Slip number 3, and finally Wilkinson Point. Thanks to Governor Hochul expediting our funding stream, we're here to move forward with Wilkinson Point. Again, this will be the final phase 1 project, which will result in nearly $44 million being spent on Outer Harbor improvements and upgrades across 50 acres of state property. Terminal B is well underway, as well as Lakeside, and they will be open next spring. Bell Slip improvements as well. And so here we are to talk again about that final project, Wilkinson Point. We're going to be upgrading 6 acres or approximately 7 acres of the site. Shifting the existing parking water edge, constructing a new building that will include a kitchen, commissary, and restrooms, and enhancing the overall landscaping, bringing a better sense of sleep. On the water side of the new building, outdoor seating zones, decks, lawns, and sand areas will allow for amazing views of Lake Erie. The existing pedestrian trails and entry drive will be separated to improve visitor safety. A large portion of the site will actually include soil amendments, additional landscaping improvements, including meadows, grasslands, and additional pollinator fields. And we will continue to provide opportunity for kayak rentals, stand-up paddleboards, and bicycles. The improvement in total will be just a little bit over $12 million. Again, with 4 contracts, which we'll review and approve individually in a second. For all of the contracts, the ESD's non-discrimination contracts, biodiversity will apply. prior to minorities and women and overall participation, MW participation over 30%, SD. And
Steve, your audio here anyway is a little choppy. Can you get a microphone that's a little closer to you? Are you able to? No?
one overhead is on, that's the closest one.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Everybody muted. I don't know if you guys can mute while I'm speaking. Is that better?
Go ahead, go ahead.
I'll continue. The directors have made a determination of no significant effect on the environment for the Buffalo Outer Harbor Civic and Land Use Project. And at that meeting back in November of 2020, this determination addressed all aspects of the project, including construction activities covered under these 4 contracts. Wilkeson Point, therefore no further. So on to the first contract. This on May 8th of this year, ECHDC solicited bids for Wilkeson Point. A total of 4 site work construction bids were received on June 14th and read aloud publicly. ECHDC and Turner Construction, who is our construction manager out there for the phase 1 projects. We de-scoped Mark Cerrone, the apparent low bidder, on June 21st. And Turner Construction recommends awarding the contract to Mark Cerrone, who was found to be the lowest responsible bidder. For almost 25 years, Mark Cerrone's been in business in Western New York. They've worked on a number of projects in the city of Buffalo, including work for various local and state governments, such as City of Buffalo, Erie Canal Harbor Development, and even state parks. They're actually currently working as our site subcontractor on our gateway building at Canal side. This contract is a lump sum contract in an amount not to exceed $5,886,500, which includes a little over a $5 million base bid with $500,000 contingency. The project is slated to begin in September of this year and be completed by December 31st of 2024. ECHDC intends to issue a notice to proceed to Mark Cerrone in the amount of $50,000 so they can begin to submit material information based on long lead items and establish a site perimeter. Funding source shall be the New York Power Authority through license agreement. So the directors are requested to make a determination of responsibility with respect to the proposed contractor, authorize the corporation to enter into a construction contract with Mark Cerrone for an amount not to exceed $5,386,500 plus a $500,000 contingency for a total contract amount of $5,886,500 and to authorize the corporation to take all related actions. Robert.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions or comments from any of the directors?
I have a question. This says,
Shatora.
yeah, oh, thanks, sorry. This says it's for site work, right? Is that correct?
Yeah, did I read it wrong?
No,
Yes.
no.
Yes.
So, also this says that there'll be construction of a food service building. Is that included in the site work plan?
No, the general contractor, which will come up in a minute.
Next.
Yes, we'll be doing the building. So it's basically a general construction, site construction, electrical, and mechanical. The 4 of those combined will complete the entire
Is all of
project.
this, but this
Correct.
is just the site work portion.
Correct.
Of that. Okay,
Correct.
wanted to make that clear.
You okay? Anything else?
I have a question.
Connie?
Thank you. Steve, how competitive were those 4 bids?
And ask Mark to chime in on it.
So the lower 2 bids were very close. We met with both Scott Lanyard and we met with Mark Cerrone, debriefed to make sure that their proposals included the full scope of services. Both did, and the difference was a couple $100,000 in difference and everything for those 2. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head, but it was fairly close. That's why we met. And then there's a bigger gap between 2 and 3.
Thank you.
Anything else? Okay, hearing none. I'll entertain a motion to approve. Moved by Connie, seconded by Mike. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Carried. Steve, next up, let's see, is the corporate Wilkinson Point improvements.
All right, so we're on
General construction.
general construction, thank you. So for general construction, again, we went out to bid on that same day in May of this year. And we received a total of 3 bids for general construction. Again, our construction manager and staff de-scoped the apparent low bidder, which was Javen Construction Company. And after going through that process, Turner Construction recommends awarding the contract to Javen, who was found to be the lowest responsible bidder. For nearly 40 years, Javen has been in the business of providing Western New York construction services. And it's still a family-owned business located just outside of Rochester. They have worked on a number of projects in the city of Buffalo and have been working with us on the Outer Harbor, including Terminal B and Bell Slip as well. So this will be
No stranger.
they know the Outer Harbor, to say the least. This contract is a lump sum amount not to exceed $3,875,000. Again, all these projects will begin in September of 2023 and be wrapped up by the end of 24. We also intend to issue a notice to proceed to Javen for $50,000. And again, that is to submit material information for long lead items and work to establish the site perimeter is safe and closed up in September. Funding source again, New York Power Authority relicensing agreement. The directors are requested to make a determination of responsibility with respect to the proposed contractor, authorize the corporation to enter into a construction contract with Javen Construction for an amount not to exceed $3,525,000 plus a $350,000 contingency for a total contract amount of $3,875,000 and to authorize the corporation to take all related actions.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions or comments? Mike?
Yeah, Steve, we've been generally pleased with Javen's work so far.
We have, yeah, I believe they've been on budget in the first 2 projects. The work is good quality. We've been really pleased with any change orders that we have had out there. They've been really good detailed.
So both of these projects plus the mechanicals are going to take Wilkinson Point offline for a while.
Yes, right. So we have a full schedule, I think, into early to mid-September with the Outer Harbor Management Group. But again, roughly after Labor Day, we'll be fencing off and we'll close Wilkinson Point in its entirety. So that we really don't have an issue, again, moving so much on the site that we thought it best to just close down Wilkinson for the year and a half.
You know, I'd be a little concerned there'd be a public safety problem if we didn't do that.
Yeah, agreed.
Anyone else?
I have a
Connie?
question. Thank you, Robert. Steve, I'm concerned about, that's a pretty big list of subcontractors. And I'm just curious, since you have done so much work with Javen, you've been happy with their subs to date?
Yes, we have. They have Javen and the 2 previous projects are current under construction, Terminal B and Bell Slip. They've been very good in identifying the needs of the subcontractor. They've been performing very well. I know this list is a little long because this scope of work, to be honest with you, it's a larger new building. There's a lot more different scope of work for the general contractor to do this time. And so we feel that they did identify those needs through their not only their MWBE list of subcontractors, but other contractors as well.
Thank you.
And then I will say this, the one thing is we're getting a lot of consistency with them because with them being, it's fortunate, I mean, it's an open bid process, but it is the fortunate thing is we are getting consistency from them through all the projects and material wise and system wise. So that there's a familiarity for even our maintenance staff who will be taking over these projects afterwards.
That's great.
My question is kind of related to that. So they list 9 firms that are MW or service disabled. Does this mean they use all 9 or does the pool of 9 that they'll pull from to meet their
That has been the 9 they have been using.
They will use all 9.
It is most likely we'll see them all on site at some point this year, or when the project starts.
Thank you, Ben.
Anyone else? Anything else? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
So move.
Move. Seconded. All in favor? Closed. Carried. Thank you. Item number 3, next up is the contract for mechanical construction services. Correct? Electric, I'm sorry, electric.
We received a total of 2 bids for electrical services. Again, we de-scoped the apparent low bidder, and Turner Construction recommends awarding the contract to Fry Electric, who was found by ECHCC to be the lowest responsible bidder. Fry's been in business in Western New York for over 75 years. Obviously very familiar in the area, do a lot of work. They are currently the electrical contractor on the Terminal B project on the Outer Harbor. This contract is a lump sum in an amount not to exceed $1,897,000. Again, same time frame. We will also issue a notice to proceed to them for $50,000 as well. And again, be using the New York Power Authority relicensing agreement fund source. The directors are requested to make a determination of responsibility with respect to the proposed contractor, authorize the corporation to enter into a construction contract with Fry Electric for an amount not to exceed $1,727,000 plus a $170,000 contingency for a total contract amount of $1,897,000, and authorize the corporation to take all related actions.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions or comments?
Just a small comment. There's just a very small typo on here that says that there were 4 bids, and then in parentheticals, it says the numerical 2. So I think we meant 2.
We do mean 2.
Okay.
We received 2 bids. Yeah, she's just pointing out it's on page 2 in section 3. The second sentence should read a total of 2 bids were received.
Great. Anything else?
Well, do the numbers add up in the resolution? We're looking at 1,727,000 for the contracted contingency of 350. That doesn't get us to 1,987, does it? Maybe I'm just math wrong. In the resolution itself.
In the resolution itself, I apologize, let me look at
I
that.
think you said something on a different amount than the contingency.
Yeah, if I could make a note, Debbie, in the contingency in the second resolved, it should read, the corporation is hereby authorized to enter into a contract with Fry Electric for a base contract of $1,727,000 plus a contingency in the amount of $170,000 for a total contract amount not to exceed $1,897,000 for the purposes and services substantially on the terms and conditions set forth in materials. We can just make note of that.
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
So,
That's nice.
any other questions or comments? No, with those additions and corrections, I'll entertain a motion to approve. Moved, seconded by Shatora, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, carried. Item number 4, now we'll do the mechanic.
There we go. That's right. So Mike, the money you saved on that last one, we have enough for mechanical now. Thank you.
There you go.
This one's a little more interesting. We did go out for, we did go in Stack's contract reporter for advertisement, solicited bids back in May with the other ones. We did not receive any bids for the mechanical services. And we acknowledged that on our call. So Turner Construction reached out to mechanical contractors to solicit bids for the scope. And after that second outreach, we only received 1 proposal. So they Turner Construction, after working with them, they do recommend the contract to MKS Plumbing, who would be the responsible low bidder in this case. The low bid is within the allocated project budget. So we did have an engineer's estimate that we felt comfortable with, and even receiving just that one bid. MKS has been around for over 25 years. They are located in West Seneca, and they have worked on a number of projects both in the city and for ECHDC, and are currently out at Terminal B.
And Belleville.
And Belleville, that's right. Okay. So we are very familiar with their work. This contract is a lump sum amount not to exceed $407,000. Again, slated to begin in September with the others. We will also provide them a notice to proceed for $50,000, and the fund source will be the New York Power Authority licensing agreement. The directors are requested to, I apologize, the directors are requested to make a determination of responsibility with respect to the proposed contractor, authorize the corporation to enter into a construction contract with MKS Plumbing for an amount not to exceed $370,000 plus a $37,000 contingency for a total contract amount of $407,000, and to authorize the corporation to take all related actions.
Thank you. Questions or comments?
Was there a reason why there's no bid? They're just really busy.
So
Yeah.
we did reach out to, I mean, while our feedback we got is there's been multiple school districts. We're looking for interior renovations, larger projects for them. So that kind of delayed the interest of some of the mechanical contractors. Turner did reach out to about 4 or 5 of them, and we did get at least one person to bid on the project.
We've had a couple instances where we've had no bidders or only 1 or 2 because they're so busy.
Yeah.
And there's a sweet spot that, it's bigger or small. This might be one of those in-between projects that either firms are too small or too big.
Yeah.
Curious.
We've seen this on a couple of other advertisements as well.
Anything else? Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Connie, seconded by Shatora. All in favor? Opposed? Items carried. Steve, item 5, which is the utility easements to Niagara Mohawk.
All right, so just a reminder that on that outer harbor, we own actually about 400 acres, half of which is Buffalo Harbor State Park, and being managed by our sister agency, the New York State Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation. So this, but it is still ECHDC's property, and so that's why this item comes before us. Niagara Mohawk currently has an easement going back to 2015 to permit electrical services to be provided to Buffalo Harbor State Park, and they wish to amend the current easement to permit it, along with some, among other things, to remove a pad mount transformer in certain underground primary facilities, and then add a new pad mount transformer and new underground facilities in closer proximity to Furman Boulevard. New York State Parks is in the process of making improvements on the land owned by ECHDC, and this new electrical service is needed to complete those improvements. Pursuant to the provisions of the Public Authorities Accountability Act, we are required to dispose of property through a competitive process unless a specific statutory exemption applies. In the present case, the relevant exemption permits negotiated transactions when the value of the property is less than $15,000. And in this case, the appraised value of the easement to be granted to Niagara Mohawk is $1,900, and well below the $15,000 threshold, as determined by an independent appraiser. Office of Parks, Recreation, Historic Preservation is the lead agency for the project improvements out there. They completed an environmental review for the improvements at Buffalo Harbor State Park. And this review found the improvements to be a type 1 action. And after a coordinated review with involved agencies, including ECHDC and our parent corporation, Empire State Development, it was determined that it would not have a significant effect on the environment. The Office of Parks, Recreation, and Historic Preservation issued negative declaration on August 3rd of 2022 and amended it a little later in the year based on a slightly refined design. So ESD staff reviewed the amended negative declaration and supporting materials and concurs. It's recommended that the directors make a determination of no significant effect on the environment. Based on the foregoing, the directors are requested to authorize the corporation to grant an easement to the Niagara Mohawk Power Corporation as described in these materials and to take all related actions.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, entertain a motion to approve. Moved by Steve, Mike Vogel, and seconded by Connie, all in favor? Aye, opposed. Thank you. Steve, the last item, which is the authorization to amend legal services contract with Hudson Russ LLP.
Thank you, Robert. In June of 2021, we entered into an agreement with Hodgson Russ to provide legal services with respect to real estate and related litigation involving ECHDC and the property that it owns. As the original agreement did not exceed $50,000 and an additional $40,000 amendment was approved within that first year, no board action was required previously. Since retention of the firm has provided valuable input, advice, and legal services to ECHDC regarding its property and legal matters at the Buffalo Outer Harbor. We would like to extend the agreement beyond 1 year and add additional funds to complete the work related to legal services, as previously mentioned, per our procurement guidelines. This is why we're coming back to the board. The firm was originally selected through a procurement whereby 3 bids from local law firms were received in accordance with guidelines. The firm, again, the new scope of work, basically there'll be sort of on-call services to provide advice as needed regarding certain legal property matters for the corporation. Firm will continue to be paid on a time and material basis. The contract term shall extend to December 31st, 2025. An additional amount of funding of $30,000 will be added for a total contract amount of $120,000. The project funding source shall be the New York Power Authority licensing. The directors are requested to make a determination of responsibility with respect to the proposed firm and authorize the corporation to enter into a contract with Hodgson Russ on the terms contained in these materials and to take all related actions.
Thank you, Steve. Any questions or comments?
I'd like to make a comment. I think that this is a good proactive move instead of being reactive when we get into a problem. So I'm very much in favor of this.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Connie. And
Second.
Satora. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Well, that concludes the meeting and there being no further business. I think we're adjourned.
We're adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Debbie.
Thanks, Deb.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Robert.
You got it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Don't collect your books before you walk away with them. Nice try. Oh, no.
Yeah,
You know what? I know how this goes.
It's really good.
Exactly. Call later.
Yeah. It's an easy one.
Sure.
If,
It's not the-
Yes.
So I gotta get.